G'day trendsetters, I'm John with Gravel Cyclist and I'm coming to you today with a long-term review of a bike that can do 2-in-1. It can ride gravel and it can ride road/bitumen. This bike is handmade by the good folks of Allied Cycle Works out of Rogers, Arkansas. And for regulars of the gravelcyclist.com website and Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel, you'll already have seen my unboxing and features video of this particular bike. But more important than that, linked in the description below is my detailed factory tour video of Allied Cycle Works headquarters, where you can see how bicycles such as the Echo are produced, and that video also includes some company history, so another reason for you to check it out. Okay, enough with the intro, it's time to crack on with the review. The Echo is touted as the bike to go fast everywhere. Pure road/bitumen performance one day and gravel the next, sans compromises. The Echo is not the first bike to attempt this double act, but of all the bicycles I've seen attempting double duty, this one could be the fastest of the lot. The Echo accomplishes the switch between road surfaces with a pair of chips, flip chips that is, one set on the fork at the front end of the bike and another set at the dropouts at the rear end of the bike. The chips adjust the bike's geometry a smidge by ½ a degree at the head tube and by 1 centimetre in terms of the fork length and 1 centimetre in terms of the chainstay length. The chainstay length adjusts between 415 millimetres and 425 millimetres. I'll demonstrate the flipping process later in the video. In roadie mode, the Echo will fit a 700C by 30mm road tyre. However, hold on for 1 second. Here we go. I've tested the Echo with NV AR 3.4 wheels rolling on Goodyear's Eagle F1 tyre in 700C by 32mm. And of course, I have a review of this tyre coming later to the channel. In gravel mode, the bike will fit up to 700C by 40mm tyres. I've run the bike with WTB's Byway tyre, and in this configuration, I have a pair of MV G23 wheels with bird spokes, running Panaracer Gravel King SK tyres in 700C by 38mm. And if you're curious, you can check out my review of this very tasty wheel set linked in the description below. Tyre clearance is pretty good at the rear end, however it does get a little bit tight beneath the fork. Cutting to the chase, the changes in geometry will make the bike a little bit more relaxed in gravelly mode and a little bit tighter in roadie mode. But there is one big potential deal killer for some. This bike will only run an electronic drivetrain, no mechanical group sets. More and more bikes designed for the adventurous road less travelled are hiding their cabling internally. Now that's a moot point for SRAM's ETAP wireless electronic drivetrain, but you typically have hydraulic brake housings hanging around near the front of the bike beneath the handlebar. Then you have the Echo. There are no cables to be seen on the front end anywhere. Arguably one of the cleanest front ends of any bicycle I've ever seen. So where the heck are the cables? Allied relies on a proprietary stem built in-house in 5 sizes. This happens to be the 110mm size that routes the Di2 wires in this case and the hydraulic brake housings beneath the top plate of the stem that also does double duty as the handlebar clamp. This system requires a 31.8mm handlebar that internalizes everything, meaning the cables exit at the center rear of the handlebar. The front brake housing runs through the inside of the hollow fork crown and exits just above the front brake caliper. Meanwhile, the hydraulic housing for the rear brake and the Di2 wires in this case run through a port in the steerer tube, which incidentally is completely straight, no tapering, and utilizes a pretty traditional headset by Chris King in this case, maintaining the USA-made theme. Because of the proprietary nature and integrated design of the front end, you do not preload the headset with your traditional top cap bolt. Rather, we have a throwback to the days of the venerable 1-inch threaded headset, where you utilize a 32mm wrench/spanner, where you adjust the preload beneath the stem against a threaded collar. What's old is new again. Stating the obvious, if you build this bike yourself or employ the services of your local mechanic, you're going to be in for a fun time routing the cables internally, but it is a one-time shot. Clearly, this sort of integration is going to be a potential deal killer for some potential customers. C-post size is 27.2 millimeters. You have to love that. And it uses a simple expander wedge to keep it in place. I can happily report there has been no slippage of the black ink seat post, even after multiple insertions and removals of flying this bike to Colorado a couple of times. Bottom bracket is the venerable and proven English thread interface. No Bollocks-orama wanky standards here. I love that, and because this is the year 2021, you have 12mm through axles front and rear, and the brake calipers are flat mounted. You may be wondering, are the brakes affected when you flip the chips around? That would be a no. They are part of the interface, so assuming you're using a different wheel set and the rotors line up, or they're playing nice, meaning they're straight and true, you shouldn't have to fiddle with caliper alignment once you flip the chips. This job is likely best performed on a repair stand, but I'm trying to film it with not a repair stand. I have the front wheel removed and you can see the chip here. This is a lock nut. I'm going to use an adjustable wrench, but you really should use the proper size wrench for doing this job. So I'm going to take great care in not to damage the paint and so on. There you can see it's pretty easy to do. So there is the actual dropout on the right side of the bike removed, and you can see the threaded piece right there. So I need to flip this around upside down, and this will effectively slide the dropout up the fork by 1 centimeter. I pop out the chip from the back side, then I flip it upside down, just like that, and that effectively raises the height of the wheel 1 centimeter higher into the frame. Now I take the drop out and I simply thread the nut, move my finger out the way, back into the dropout to complete the change. This is the left side of the fork. You might notice the threading direction on the nut, so I have to turn it to the right to loosen off, which goes against convention. 8mm Allen key, and there we go, loosens off. There you can see the front dropout on the left side of the fork has been removed. Now I need to move the brake mount, which is combined with the dropout, up the frame. I simply need to loosen off the attachment point, which is done with a 2.5mm Allen key. Final step of the fork, install the left side dropout. Dropout's reinstalled. Don't forget it is reverse thread, so left side to tighten. Now it's time to install the front wheel with the revised dropout height. Wheel installed, through bolt to complete the job. That's the front of the bike done. In all, it took about 5 minutes. There we go, you can see the gap. It's about 10 millimeters between the top of the tyre and the crown of the fork, and this is a 700C by 32mm tyre. Now it's time to adjust the rear dropout. So like the front, we're going to loosen off and shift forward, and this is going to shift the derailleur forward and the rear brake forward. And note the threading, reverse threading once again. 8mm Allen key, opposite thread. Gotta be careful, I do not drop the derailleur onto the ground. It's just released. Now I flip the chip forward position. Make sure it's sitting in the dropout spot. Then thread it back in. Reverse thread, don't forget that, reverse thread. And just do it nice and slow because you do not want to cross thread this. There we go, threading in nicely, nice and slow. Now I need to move the brake forward, so I use my adjustable wrench, although like I said earlier, it's probably best to have a proper size wrench for doing this job. There you see the rear left side dropout has been removed, so I'll flip it round in a second, but first I need to loosen off. There is one bolt here holding the brake to the frame, need to loosen off. Move it to the forward position. There's the bolt removed. Move the brake forward. This is not the best angle to be doing this. I'm trying to film and show you folks how this procedure happens, but now I'm just threading into the forward position, then use the 4mm Allen key to lock it down. Almost finished. Now reinstall the lockdown nut at the back of the bike. I'll lock it down finger tight just to get the thread started, and then use my wrench. Lock down. Now it's time to reinstall the wheel. Through bolt. Let's get a side profile shot of the bike in roadie mode. The Echo isn't really a full-on gravel bike in my opinion, which may rationalise why Ally decided to not include fender mounts and a top tube mount for a bento box, feed bag, whatever you want to call it. However, they do include a third bottle cage mount beneath the down tube. Now, once upon a time, I used to think the top tube mount was complete and utter bollocks. Now I'm a convert, so I'd rather see a top tube mount versus a third bottle cage mount, or you could have both, but that's not up to me. Thankfully, there is a plethora of handlebar bag mount options for bikes such as this. Obviously, that's going to kill any perceived aero advantages of this lovely front end. But one bag I've ridden, reviewed, and can highly recommend is the Bucket UW Mini Bar Bag. The review is linked below. You can see it in use right here. It's manufactured from a recycled Gravel King SK tyre in my example. And pardon the cicada action in the background. This is all part and parcel of shooting outside in north central Florida in the heat and humidity of August. Finally, this is the stock geometry size small, which in gravelly mode gives you a 550.3mm top tube, and in roadie mode a 549.8mm top tube. And here is the geometry chart that covers all of the sizes. Okay, that's the tech specs covered. Let's find out how the Allied cycle works. Echo rides. First up, gravelly mode, and I didn't beat about the place with riding this bike. 2 trips to Colorado flying the bike, one which included me riding the 104-mile blue course at SBT Gravel in Steamboat Springs, and another at a gravel camp with the folks from Lifetime. We also conducted a ton of riding in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. For gravelly mode, the geometry changes are very slight from the roadie setup, but in my mind, the bike still rides and feels just like a fast road bike, but one that can fit 700C by 14mm tyres. Behold, the Allied Echo shod with 650B wheels and tyres. Unfortunately, I can't get too close because the tyres on this bike are under embargo at the time of the video. I have them under review, so you'll just have to wait. But on the positive, here are some tyre clearance photographs with the 650B wheels and tyres. I'll still ride on the pavement from time to time, and I particularly like how there is no compromising feel from some of my personal road bikes versus the Echo in gravel mode. It accelerates well, it climbs well, and descending, it absolutely smashes descents, with the only limitation being your personal margins of safety. I mentioned this earlier, the Echo was never intended as a full-on gravel bike, so if you're looking for bigger tyre clearance, a bit more comfort, this bike will not be for you. It's also a wee bit pricey, more on that later. For roadie mode, it is difficult to discern this bike as anything but a high zoot road bike. The bike is stiff. If you get on the proverbial gas in or out of the saddle, there is no wasted energy with the bike flexing about the place, but by the same token, it won't absolutely beat you to hell. Pay attention to your tyre pressure and you should be pretty chuffed. It responds well to your efforts of steering the bike around corners and descending. Well, it's just like I mentioned earlier in gravel mode. 20 miles today with the boys. We're including some dirt roads. The Echo rides pretty handily with 30 or 32mm tyres on some of the lighter dirt and gravel roads, which is nice if you like to get spicy with your mates during a roadie ride. Barring the increase of tyre clearance in gravel mode, I had a difficult time discerning I had made the switch to roadie mode, and I would be inclined to leave the bike in gravel mode 24/7 and run road tyres if needed to save swapping around the flip chips. In other words, you have what the marketing department of the bicycle industry calls an endurance road bike. This now brings me to who this bike is for. Well, if you don't enjoy integrated anything, run away now. However, I've seen many integrated bikes over the years, and Allied, I feel, has done the best job of executing this super clean front end and everything else. In my experience, the system has been set and forget. The headset has not come out of adjustment, and I've traveled with this bike, as I mentioned earlier, 2 times to Colorado, where I packed it into a box, flew it off, and so on. Which cues me to another review I knocked out of a travel case where you did not have to remove the handlebars. That in itself is an amazing feature. It is the Evoke Road Bike Bag Pro case, and you can check it out linked in the description below. As an FYI, the Evoke Road Bike Bag Pro case also works with gravel bikes, provided your handlebars aren't too wide and flared. For those who don't have that fancy case to travel with, you're obviously going to face some hassles removing the handlebar, then retensioning the headset, and so on. Additionally, if you desire tons of mounts on your bike, fender mounts and a top tube mount, this bike may not be for you. That point aside, I really believe that Allied has brought to market the best 2-in-1 bike, convertible bike, whatever you want to call it, that can handle the rigors of the gravelly roads, less traveled, and the speedy nature of bitumen and pavement riding. Honestly, I feel that Allied has done themselves a little bit of a disservice with this bike because they've effectively killed the notion of buying 2 bikes. You could have a full-on gravel bike and you could have a full-on road bike, and like I pointed out, this bike does all of that, provided the gravelly roads you're riding don't exceed the needs of a 40mm tyre. Other points of concern, I don't know long-term how long the flip chip hardware will last. Granted, it's easily replaceable, but as I showed in my demonstration earlier, I purposely used dodgy tools to get the job done because not everybody's going to have the perfect size wrench or spanner laying around the house. The other major point of contention with this bike is its price. The frame kit, which consists of the frame, the fork, the headset, the stem, and the seat post, and in this example, will set you back around about US $4,880, and that price can increase depending on options. You also have the option of custom paint, which in my example is the beautiful Aussie gold with green accents. There's a ton of paint options and so on, so you're best visiting the Allied Cycles website to see what that's all about. As this bike sits with, hang on a second, the NV 3.4 wheels that came shod with WTB's byway tyres and everything else you see here, a combination of GRX Di2 and Ultegra Di2, this bike will set you back somewhere around about, I figure, $10,000 US. So obviously, it's not going to be for everyone. But if you desire a bike that can be customized and is unique to you and is made in the United States, which is important to a lot of people, the Allied Cycle Works Echo could be perfect for you. Nearing closing, I'm often asked, do I want to return the review bikes? In this example, no way. Those cheeky buggers at Allied Cycle Works, aka Will Stoffel, behind my back, had the bike custom painted, as I said earlier, in my favourite Aussie gold colours. Makes it kind of difficult. It's beautiful. Did I mention this bike is beautiful? So there you have it, my long-term review of the Allied Cycle Works Echo, handmade in Rogers, Arkansas. I realise nowadays there are so many gravel bikes available on the market today for your purchasing pleasure, so I hope that my review in some way in helping you make an informed purchase decision. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel for no bullshit detailed gravel bike reviews such as this one, ride experience videos, product reviews, and other madness, as all of it is released to the channel. I really need to go inside the house and rehydrate and remove this sweaty clothing. I am completely soaked and sweating my bollocks off. I'll see you in the next video.